Welcome to Amplify, a podcast series by the Association for Accounting Marketing. I'm Abbey Kanellakis, a practice growth manager with Rea Associates, and I'm your host for today's session. Joining me today is Becky Livingston. Becky is the president and CEO of Penheel Marketing, a New Jersey-based firm that specializes in social media and digital marketing for CPAs and small business owners. If you're listening to today's episode, please do me a favor and subscribe to our podcast to hear about new episodes every month. And it would also be great if you gave us a big thumbs up on today's episode or share it with your network on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm sure others will find the content in today's episode just as informative as you do. With that said, I'm going to take a moment to talk about Becky. Now, with over 25 years of marketing and tech experience, today's guest is also the author of SEO for CPAs, the Accountant's SEO Handbook, Get Found Online Organically. That's a mouthful. The Accountant's Social Media Handbook as well. With a graduate degree from Pace University in Information Systems, Becky also holds undergraduate degrees from 2 other colleges and also has a certificate in corporate training from NYU. She is also an active member of the Association for Accounting Marketing. In addition to being a practitioner, Becky is also an adjunct professor and speaker. In fact, you'll be able to see her this summer at Engage in June. Welcome to Amplify, Becky.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about AI and marketing. According to Forbes, 84% of marketing organizations are implementing or expanding AI and machine learning in 2018. We're in 2019 now, so I'm sure that's just exploding even more. We continue to embrace tech at every opportunity. So I want to take a moment to dig into what it is we're really talking about. What's the difference between AI and machine learning?
It's very interesting. I hear several people talk about this differently, but with a technology background, it's easier for someone like me to understand it because I've been dealing with AI for 30 or 40 years now, interestingly enough. And we all have, actually. And artificial intelligence is like the overarching umbrella of the ability to collect data. Think algorithms, analytics, things like that. It just collects the data. It doesn't do anything with it, doesn't organize it, it just collects it. That's artificial intelligence. The machine learning piece takes that data and does things to it. For example, you can add personalization to it. It can organize it into topical areas. It can modify the content so it starts to build new things based on the data that it's collecting. Think things like content generated on the fly. Based on a user's experience. If you shop at Amazon, you experience machine learning every time you go there because it's based on what you searched for previously, which always gets a little crazy when you're buying gifts for other people and then you start seeing all those weird gifts coming your way and you're like, I'm not even interested in that. How did that show up in my feed? It's because you purchased it or looked at it in the past. The same thing starts to happen online with websites, with bots, with email marketing. Lots of different areas are starting to use machine learning to personalize things based on my search. For example, my news feed on my mobile phone is based on criteria that I've chosen, and I get that information sent to me because of the things I've chosen.
Could you explain why AI is needed in marketing? I mean, you've touched on it a lot, but maybe bring it back to the accounting industry and why we might find it necessary for us to start embracing.
Sure. One of the big shifts that I've seen in marketing over the last 25 years is we're going from creative professionals to more data-centric professionals. We have to understand what the data points are, how we can use those data points to increase return on investment, to generate leads in a particular niche or geographic area or industry or whatever our business goals are. And we have to be able to look at what we're providing and collecting to streamline that process.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do I need to be prepared to answer about investment in AI and its impact on our firm's bottom line?
Yeah, those questions are going to come your way from our loving CPAs and CFOs and our technology people because they need to be involved as well. So one of the questions that you need to be able to answer as you move through this process is how do we use the technology to broaden the mouth of our marketing funnels? Now, the question won't come at you that way, particularly from technology or the finance people, but that's really what they're asking you. How do you broaden the reach of our marketing base? One of the other questions is, how do we use it to communicate more intimately with our prospective clients? So let's say, for example, they're looking for estate planning. How can we take the data that we have either about a client or a prospect and really organize the information that we're sharing with them through the sales team or our website, social media, and hit that point that makes sense to them at that moment in time? The other question will be, how are we going to measure its impact accurately? That's probably going to be the hardest thing for us to determine, because we all know that data and analytics is not our wheelhouse. Even though we're getting there, we have to be there. We have to understand the story that the data is telling us.
Right, right. Do you have any examples of, some case studies for AI in accounting marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there are firms that are using this. Of course, the big four are either using Watson or Einstein or something at this point, but smaller firms can also be leveraging it. So looking at existing content that you have, you can use AI to identify gaps that you might have, which is great, because if you're starting to look at a niche market or you're looking at an industry, it'll help you out to identify where you can use and create content. Target marketing for an audience, meaning personalization, buyer personas, all of that stuff, behaviors and lookalike audiences. If you're using Facebook advertising right now, you can upload a lookalike audience. That's AI. And also a little bit of machine learning in there. If you're using Google Ads or another PCP or PPC program, that's using AI. If you're doing email marketing that allows you to remarket to anybody, that's leveraging AI. Another aspect or case that you want to think about is how you can optimize and automate processes for digital ads. And many of the tools today are doing this. The social media tools are doing it through remarketing. Google Ads, Bing Ads, they're all doing it through remarketing. So being able to repurpose and resell the most effective pieces versus spending money and effort and time on the ones that aren't working. Topics and titles for content. Yes, most of us are writers at some point, but even writers have a stumbling block sometimes. I saw this great piece yesterday from Marketo. It came out with headline hacks, and it's like 50 pages long, but it's just a list of different headlines with blanks that you can fill in. You can use tools like headline generators. You can use tools like Phrasee and Wordsmith and things like that to help you generate content. One thing that I use often, especially for CPAs and my clients, is I use Answer the Public. That is an aggregate or crowdsourced tool that you put in a keyword and it will send back a whole circle of questions people have asked.
Wow.
The thing I love about that is it's written in a question, which is SEO friendly for things like Siri and Alexa and all of those things, which you can then put in your SEO on your website. And then you answer the question. Great little tools like that. Simple things. Anybody can use them in any size firm.
Wow, it just really sounds like we're inundated with AI right now. We don't even know it half the time. It really is everywhere we are.
It is. It's everywhere. And, you know, that's why I kind of chuckle about AI being such a hot topic. And my husband's a computer science person as well. And I'm like, I've been dealing with AI for 30 years. This is not new. Right. I mean, the phrase was coined in 1956. AI is not new. It's the machine learning piece that's new.
Right.
Yeah.
It's changed the playing field, and now, you know, some of the things that we can do as a smaller CPA firm, we never would have even fathomed, you know, years ago, and now it's all easily accessible.
Yeah.
Well, and, you know, kind of leading into my next question, and you've touched on some of the tools very well so far, but what are some other tools? Because, you know, we're looking for solutions, some ways that we can get this off the ground ourselves. What do you have in terms of tools that we might be able to use?
Well, I have some great tools, and I'll be sharing a lot more of them at Engage this summer, but things that apply to email marketing. If you're using a Constant Contact, a MailChimp, other tool for your email, Boomtrain, Phrasee, and Persado. Those three are really good at helping you to generate headlines, content, it sounds or it appears to be written by a human. And I love that because it cuts our time in half or more, and it makes us more efficient to focus on the things that we need to be focusing on. Tools like Wordsmith, Articolo, and Quill, those are really good. AP, Associated Press, and Forbes use these right now. They also create content based on fill in the blanks that you complete.
Nice.
So if you were to say tax breaks for parents,
Yeah.
it would generate content back to you based on what it's combed across the internet.
Wow.
And you can then, I know, right? It makes you look so genius.
Yes.
And then you can then you can massage that to make it more personal based on your firm's services and or professional skills. Love those tools. Wordsmith, love it. Salesforce, Einstein, of course, I would be not a CPA marketer if I didn't mention Salesforce and Einstein. That delivers predictions and recommendations based on your business process and customer data. Now that's really used based on the sales team. That's a bigger tool than for a small firm, but some smaller firms are starting to leverage it.
Okay.
X.AI. This happens to be one of my favorite little gizmos. X.AI. It's an artificial intelligence personal assistant. You can give your personal assistant her or his own name.
Nice.
You can also give it a bit of a personality. So if you want a Hemsworth brother maybe as your AI assistant with an Australian accent, you can do that. You can do that. It's a free tool. It helps you to set up meetings. If someone needs to change the meeting, it automatically sends the response. It actually appears to be a human working in your organization who manages your schedule. Love the tool. It's fascinating. If you get a chance, go check that one out.
I feel like I'm channeling my grandfather right now. I'm like, what will they think of next?
I don't know. It's always amazing to me. Answer the Public, I've already mentioned. Facebook bot tools, those are different than many of the other tools that Facebook has. And WIT, WIT.ai.bot. Those are easy to use and user-friendly tools. They're different than chat bots. They actually go in, look at your content, create new posts for your social media.
Wow.
So, and they're pretty easy to create and use. You don't need to have a programming background to use them.
That's phenomenal. Thanks for sharing these. We'll have to write them out and get the links out to everybody as well. And like you said, you're going to be talking a little bit more about these at your session.
Yep.
Fantastic.
That, and I have a whole list of 50 other tools. It's crazy. That I'm not talking about, but that'll be available.
Fantastic. Thank you, Becky. Now, okay, so we talked about the tools. So now let's talk about the steps. What steps can marketers take now to prepare for AI in their firm, even if they've already begun, haven't begun, in each stage maybe?
The first step is always research and learning. What is it that you need to know about these tools, how you can leverage them? It's not going to be an easy process because, as I said, I'm going to be sharing 50 of them. There's hundreds of these things out there. Knowing the first thing, which is, why do I need this tool in the first place? What problem is it going to solve? If you can't identify a problem, then AI is probably not the right solution for you at this point. So researching what the tools are, what problem it's going to solve, and how you can move it to the next step, which is identifying the people that are going to help you with this. We're talking about your IT team. They have to be involved. Legal probably should be involved because you are collecting data. You are creating new content. We want to make sure the ethics and all that stuff is being followed. Human resources might be another thing because you may need to bring someone else into your team who has more of a data mindset in marketing. So that's some of the things to think about. Sales, of course. If you have a sales team, they need to be brought in the loop.
Right.
Defining a use case. Why do we need this tool? Because it's a hot new thing, it's shiny, it's pretty? No, that's not the answer. Why are we using it? Do we need to reduce costs? Do we need to increase efficiency? Is there a market that we're going after that we can only reach them with this type of technology? You have to create the use case and then find your advocate within the firm. Verifying the data. It's interesting, there was an AAM open forum today question just about this data normalization and what kind of tools can you use to make sure your data is the same across all these different platforms that you're using. So identifying your data needs is another big step. And these processes do not take weeks. These can take months, because just cleaning up your data can take weeks.
Yeah.
Evaluating software and companies. That's a really difficult one as well, because they're going to talk language that you as a marketer don't understand. That's why you need the IT people in the room. And if you have a DBA, get them in the room, because these people will talk about buzzwords and all kinds of fun stuff, and you're like, oh, googly-eyed and in love with them, only to find out they're not doing anything for you. So looking at the software and evaluating the companies to work with. Investment is the next step. Implementation, test, and optimize on a sample set, just to see what kind of information you're going to get out of it. How does it work? Is there any ethical problems that we need to be looking at? And then scale, expand, and grow.
Right.
So it's a pretty, I have 8 steps there. It's a pretty expansive process, and it doesn't happen in a week.
Clearly, yeah, you are, saying, and I think it's just important to reiterate again, this isn't, a couple months process. This,
Right.
Each step could take months or longer. It sounds like it's a long-term investment.
It is a long-term investment, not only in money, but also with people.
Right. Correct. Now you had mentioned this word in your steps process, and I just want to wrap my head around it a little bit more, because I don't know exactly what it means. But what is data normalization?
That's a buzz term that you'll hear from these techie people like me. And what that means is, if you're collecting data from multiple parts, let's say you're collecting it from email marketing, you're collecting it from your website analytics, or you're collecting it from your sales team, normalizing the data means all the field names that you're collecting are called the same thing. So you don't have one part of the business collecting first and last name as one field. Everybody's collecting it first name, last name, 2 separate fields, hyphenated, whatever your format is. If you're collecting addresses, if you're collecting phone numbers, if you're collecting email addresses, titles, any of that information, it all needs to look the same, because you're working with a machine,
right,
not a human. And if the pieces don't look the same, the machine doesn't know what to do with them, so they just throw them away. And then you have to go back and fill in all the blanks. So that's really what normalization is, making it all the data fit in the fields the same way, in the same structure.
Excellent analysis or explanation. Can't speak today. Great job explaining that, Becky.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk, dig in on another step that you had talked about. What questions should I ask MarTech vendors to help vet them prior to purchasing?
Yeah, that's important, because they'll come in with all those bells and whistles and you'll fall in love with them. But what you need to do and ask first, and they're probably going to say yes to this question, is, why do I need AI to solve this problem? They're going to say, well, you need this because. And of course, that's just what they tell you,
Right.
But you really need to understand, do we really need AI and machine learning to solve this problem for us? Is it a big enough issue, pain point for us to deal with? The next question is, do I have sufficient data to use for AI? One of the points that I read about and I talk about is 10,000 data points. Now that sounds like a lot, but every email you send has a first name field, a last name field, an email address. That's 3 fields of data for every person that you send an email to. Let's say your list is 1,000 people. That's 3,000 pieces of data. Right. Then you collect your website analytics, and Lord knows there's billions of pieces of data in there.
Right.
If you're using another tool like a form on your website that's collecting information, those are also fields of data. So 10,000 seems like a huge amount, but you're probably already collecting that now. You just don't realize it.
Wow.
Yeah. The next question, the type of talent or personnel your company can provide to help us understand the technology in use. So you're asking the vendor for help. What background do these people have that you're going to be working with? And before you get to the vendor point, you need to know what kind of people you need on your team to see how they answer that question. Because if they don't have the people that you need on their list, they might not be the right vendor for you. The gestation period and potential return on investment for your solution. So let's say we decide to implement this thing. How long is it going to take? And when can we see the return on investment?
Right.
Because we all know that's what it's all about in a CPA firm. It's
Right.
like that with any business, really. But when are we going to see the return? So they have to be able to help you answer that. And if they say within a week, I'd be a little skeptical.
Right.
Let's see, another question. How or where will the tech touch customers? This is very important for CPAs and any regulated industry. How will it touch the customer, and what are the possible negative outcomes that could happen? So here's an example. Someone just told me, I was just at an AI conference last week, and someone gave this example that CVS had this father's email address, and they had sent him something about pregnancy. And he was like, why am I getting this? This doesn't even make sense. Well, it had turned out that his daughter had looked at something on a CVS website under his name, and that's how he got the information. So we say, whoops, that's a huge fail. But think about that in the CPA space. Let's say your client is looking for something about divorce, and they have a shared email account. And the other spouse gets information back about divorce. And then now where are you? Are you in an ethical dilemma? Are you in a confidentiality issue? There's lots of things that could come up that we, as in the CPA world, need to be cautious of. So ask your vendors about, if that happens, what's our recourse? Yeah, right. Hold your breath.
That is intense. Oh my gosh.
It's really scary. That's why I had legal on the list of people in your group.
Let's underline that, legal.
Yeah. And then the last one is, of course, references in the accounting and finance space. You don't want people not in your industry for references. You need to have people in your space, because then you can ask them the questions that we've just talked about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. What are some of the barriers to AI marketing?
Oh, there are several. The biggest one, I think, is having someone who can support the data, understand the story, understand what the data is telling you. Because without understanding what the data is telling you, you're not going to be able to be effective and be able to feed the story into the machine for the machine to be as effective as it can be. Another thing is the right personnel. If you don't love numbers, find someone on your team who does, because that person's the one that's going to be thrilled with working on this kind of a project.
Right.
You know, so that's really hard, is finding the right people. Technology on its own is not going to boost conversion and drive sales. So you've got to keep the marketer involved. The machine's not going to be the creative one. They might generate ideas that then help the marketer to create the final piece, but they're not going to be the most creative of the creatives. I mean, humans have to do that.
Right. You still need that human touch.
Exactly. You still need the human in the space to also look at process and to look at the growth and to look at where we can take it in the next stage. Identifying where and how it can plug into your marketing strategies, that's a big barrier. If you don't know what your pain points are and how this tool can help fill those pain points, you're going to be wasting your time, money, effort, energy, all of that stuff. And you never know what's going to happen at the other side of that.
Right.
You waste all that stuff, and, you know, we as marketers sometimes don't always make it out the other side.
Oh, true story.
Yeah. We know. We've all been there at least once. The last barrier is cost and finding the right tools. They don't have to cost a lot, despite what some people will tell you. There's some tools I've mentioned already that are free. X.AI is free. It's a fabulous little scheduling tool for small firms, sole practitioners, anybody that doesn't want to deal with that. Use it. Anybody can use it.
Right.
So those are some of the cons.
Wow, you have dropped a lot of knowledge on us today,
yeah.
And we really appreciate that. You know, do you have anything to kind of tie it all together just before we sign off here?
Sure. You know, barriers exist, but there are different ways to implement AI, machine learning into your marketing. You can do it incrementally to help minimize the risk. You can leverage different tools that are available today. But one of the things to consider as you incorporate these different aspects of AI into your existing marketing efforts and building a large-scale project is look at the roadmap down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want the firm to be? What does the marketing effort look like in 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, 48 months? Because this is where it's going to take you. It's not something that happens and then it falls apart.
Right.
This is something that's going to grow and build and become something really big in your firm. In the end, you want to think about ways it's going to increase your productivity, gain as gaining time, effort, energy back into your world, and also making marketing more attainable for those
Mm-hmm.
who are doing marketing. It's not something that just happens overnight.
Right.
It's something that can help you be a more creative marketer,
Mm-hmm.
a more efficient marketer, allows you to write ads much faster. It allows you to create headlines much easier. It allows you to develop new content much in a greater scale.
And more effectively.
More effectively. So what do you really want to focus on as a marketer? Do you want to be writing content all day? Well, that's a content person.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a marketer. That's a writer.
Right.
So think about you as a marketer. Where do you want to grow and expand, and how can you bring more value to the firm?
Right. And it doesn't sound like this is going away anytime soon. This is going to be just a part of who we are as marketers. It's a part of our DNA. We're going to have to embrace it, and we're going to have to learn how to leverage it.
I agree. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much, Becky. This has been a great interview, and I've just learned so much.
Great.
Okay, you've shared a lot of great information, and I'm actually going to look forward to sitting down on your session during Engage 2019. I'm excited to get the 50 tools that you are talking about.
You say that now.
That's right. I might cry in trying to get through it, but we'll get through it together.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, this wraps up another episode of Amplify. Thank you for tuning in, and please watch for another podcast from the Association for Accounting Marketing next month. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast to be able to access new episodes as soon as we release them. And don't forget to like this episode and share it with your network. Leave us a comment. I'm sure Becky will be happy to answer some of your questions in the comment section. And signing off, I'm Abbey Kanellakis, the Practice Growth Manager with Rea Associates, and I'm reminding you to always aim high. Power up, listen.